Hey, welcome back to the Walking with Jaguar podcast. Today I have a very special guest. Her name is Aga. She is a medicine woman. She is a Kambo practitioner and teacher. She's a musician and just an all-around amazing soul walking the path. And I'm really excited to dive in because I feel like I don't know you super well, but I feel like there's a lot of things that align in our two worlds. So before we dive in, I was wondering if there was any other hats or identities you like to wear just for fun.
I mean, I wear so many hats. I like to go by the octopus hat, right? It's like medicine, psychedelics, but also sound and music, but also like comedy. I have a background in acting and sketch comedy. So it's like, it's so hard to define myself as one thing. So I even have a hard time with bios because it's like I have so many hobbies and interests. So it's like, let's just pick a topic and let's wear that hat for a little while.
No, 100% agree. It seems like everyone who's kind of walking the path, it just the curiosity takes you down so many paths. So yeah, love it. Let's just get started with a bit of like background. I'm curious what called you to the medicine path and what the first little period of that looked like.
It was actually a love story. So my first time sitting with medicine was with ayahuasca in Ecuador. But how I got there, my family, my mom and my brother were living out in Ecuador. They had moved. I'm in Vancouver, and they were living off the grid and invited me out. And at that time, I was 19, going on 20, working as in film and television. I wanted to be an actress, and everybody knows people who are acting are also really broke and work a bunch of jobs. So I was working door check at a strip club in Vancouver at the Penthouse. So I was working door check. I was doing like jewelry auctions on the weekends. I was working at an acting school. I was overworked, burnt out, addicted to alcohol. I didn't realize at the time, but I had social anxiety that I was masking with alcohol, partying, getting into cocaine and MDMA, ecstasy, and all these things, and kind of was reluctant about going to Ecuador. I was like, what am I gonna do in Ecuador? I'm an actress, right? And they were like, no, you got to come out here, just experience this. So I land in Ecuador. There's no context at all. Next day, my brother's like, "Hey, you got to try out this ayahuasca thing. It's super cool. You're in a teepee. There's a shaman. You puke. You get visions. It's great." And I'm honestly an adventurous spirit, and I don't need much context. I'm like, "Sign me up. Let's do this." And the next morning, his friend picks me up, and is this beautiful young man. And instantly, I'm like in awe. Like, I told my brother, like, "Dude, you didn't tell me like this man is gorgeous." I had this huge crush. And he takes me to my first ayahuasca ceremony. And the experience itself wasn't magical. There was a lot of, I mean, there's actually quite a comical story around it of a lot of purging and, the, I want to say probably the worst ceremony I've ever been to, the ayahuasquero. The shaman fell asleep at all throughout the whole ceremony, just sitting there snoring, and it's just absolute chaos. People are purging, there's exorcisms happening, there's a dog got into the teepee and it's just growling at everyone. There was no bathroom set up in the backyard, so people are just pooing all over the backyard. If you're trying to go out, and anyone who's sat with Aya knows that you're kind of teetering, it kind of feels like you're drunk, you're wobbly. So I'm stepping in shit, I it's just not a good experience. But I'm next to this beautiful man, and when we're journeying, it felt like our souls were remembering each other. And by the end of those 3 days, we turned to each other and we're like, "I remember you, and I've fallen deeply in love with you." And what turned what was a 2-week visit with my parents was this beautiful, I want to say like love affair. And when I went back to Vancouver, I got rid of all my jobs. I sold all my stuff, and I was like, okay, I've got to go back. I got to go back to this world, to this man, but also to this world that was revealed to me of psychedelics, of conscious relating and embodiment. So I sold all my stuff, and I was still broke at the time. And I asked Spirit, like, if I'm meant to go there, please give me enough money for the ticket. and tax season was around the corner, and out of nowhere I got just the perfect amount to go buy my ticket, go back to Ecuador, the Vilcabamba in the Andean Mountains, and live out what ended up being 2.5, 3-ish years with this man of on and off living in Ecuador and in Mexico, going down to Pucallpa, Peru, in an ayahuasca center and learning there, and um, yeah, just immersing myself in this world of psychedelics, but also what it means to truly live in that place of authentic relating. In the past, I had, like I'd mentioned, masked so much of my trauma with alcohol and so much of my coping mechanisms, um, that when I became sober, it's like this whole other world opened up to me. So that was the beginning of entering this world.
All right, we're back. Technical difficulties.
Yes. Yeah. Sold all my shit, came and then went back to Ecuador and lived. My plan was to live in Ecuador. I was like, I'm moving here. I love this. I love the community. I love psychedelics. I love purging. That's where I also found out about Kambo. There's a really conscious community there with breath work, with ecstatic dance, and this whole idea of authentic, liberated expression was so foreign to me and so abstract, and at the same time so enticing. And of course, meeting a beautiful man and falling in love and having my first conscious relationship was a great selling point for me to move down there. So we were together for about 2 years. I want to say on and off 2 years. We were living in Ecuador, Mexico, Peru, and this young man, he was training to be an ayahuasquero. His life was visionary states of consciousness, studying the subtle realms, and by default, I was by his side, also learning kind of like Velcro learning. And we ended up in Pucallpa, Peru at one point in an ayahuasca center, and we were being trained to manage the center. And that was a really big turning point where I was introduced to a world where this was not just a place of explorative fun for me, but I could see firsthand how people were healing 20 years of depression and antidepressant, what's the word, resistant depression or bulimia or addiction or PTSD, and like right before my eyes in a week's time, people having these massive transformative experiences. And that's something inside of me clicked. I think I was 23 at the time, and I went, yeah, I want to dedicate my life to this is what works.
Yeah, and like as soon as you're like around the medicine circles, you just see it. You see it. It's insane. Like the light just flicks on in people's eyes, and their entire lives shift.
Yeah.
So, how long were you down in Pucallpa for?
I think it was only about 4 months. I didn't last. We didn't end up taking over the center because the idea was that we would be on for 6 months, and then the owners would go back home to, I believe, Arizona at the time for 6 months because they had been running this retreat. I believe it's called Madhya Tierra now. It had a different name. They're still there. They're still in Pucallpa, Peru. I see their posts all the time on my Instagram. But just how life circumstances, it wasn't the job for me, and ended up, that relationship came to a harmonious end, a completion. I went to move on to the next chapter in my life, which was yoga and meditation and traveling the world in Southeast Asia and going to India and learning yoga and learning nutrition. There was this incredible chef at that ayahuasca center who was into the ketogenic diet, and um, didn't know at the time, but I also had food allergies that I was struggling with that caused chronic bloating and Candida. Also, I didn't realize I had fungal Candida, and a lot of my symptoms were fungal based. And when I shifted my diet and stumbled upon a compound called lufeneron, thanks to my brother, the same guy who introduced ayahuasca to me, um, I transformed my health around, because up until then I was also really sick. I was on antibiotics for 3 to 6 months out of the year, for some sort of strep throat or kidney infection or ear infection or sinus infection. And then in the summer I had hay fever that was living off of Claritin and Reactant. So I was constantly medicated. Plus I was guzzling alcohol, and I was on birth control, and I was eating crap. So my body, even though I was still young, 20, was falling apart. So my time at that ayahuasca center was a huge awakening, not just thanks to ayahuasca, but also recognizing that I have fungus, learning about what a real healthy diet looks like. Not saying that that's keto for everybody, but keto really helped things swap things around for me. And then I dove deep into nutrition, became a holistic health coach. And by the time I moved back to Vancouver to anchor in, um, yeah, I had been exposed to, many facets of modality, alternative healing modalities, and started to weave my own practice here in Vancouver.
So what did that look like initially?
Initially, it was gut health coaching. So focusing with on Candida and gut health and leaky gut. And then it started to get the call to work with mushrooms here and serving mushrooms. And then that led to learning about the nervous system and becoming a trauma informed somatic breathwork practitioner involving, yeah, incorporating breath. And then Bufo came on, and then Kambo, and it was all of a sudden this like altar of medicine started to appear in my life. But it started off with good old bone broth.
hmm hmm Yeah. I know, like me personally, like I had a lot of health problems growing up, and that's kind of what led me to the medicine path in a weird kind of way. And everyone like has their own way they find it as well. And like some people just had like really brutal childhood and this and that. But it's cool when you're sick and like the evolution that you have to like create in yourself and like have real world connection to the healing that's taking place. Like I've done so much work now on like healing my guts that I didn't even know was an issue, until I actually became like more self-aware and I was like, oh my God, people like poo good every day. What the fuck? You know? Like growing up, like I got what's it called? Staph. I had a staph infection when I was 19 or something. And like they just pushed so many antibiotics through my system in that period. And it was like my guts were just absolutely destroyed. And like turning that around took such a long time. So yeah, that's awesome. And is that when you created the Candida cleanse around that same time?
I didn't create it. I was introduced to it. My brother actually got connected to the distributor and created Candida Cleanser. So as when I was starting to become a health coach, basically got like piggybacked into his um I'm gonna say his company. So I started working for him, and then over the years he stepped out of that role and then passed it on to me. So yeah.
Awesome. So what kind of work are you doing around the Candida? Because I know I had a conversation with you, I mean, that's a couple of months ago now, and you were telling me that the Candida, it almost creates like an exoskeleton. And I'd never heard that before. So I'd love to just dive in and just like get some wisdom from you.
Yeah, so I didn't know this either. When people think of candida, they mostly think of yeast overgrowth. And yeast is a single-celled organism in the body, and it's like the janitor. It will eat excess sugar, toxins, dead and decaying tissue, and your gut bacteria will actually eat the yeast, and they live in this symbiotic relationship. But the problem is when the yeast overgrows. And why does it overgrow? Well, first of all, we don't have enough probiotics because antibiotics are in everything, right? Like you get sick, your doctor's like, ha, amoxicillin, penicillin, right? Or you have like that staph infection, or even surgeries, people go in and they're just pumped with these medications that alter gut bacteria. But also stress, the chlorine in our water, and the excess sugar in our diet. It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet for this yeast, and it grows and grows and grows and grows. And then this bacteria that's supposed to eat it, there's not enough of it. And Candida is unique because it's dimorphic. When it proliferates to a certain amount of numbers, it changes form, and now it turns into a fungus, which is very different than yeast overgrowth. Fungus, if It's covered in an exoskeleton made of chitin. And chitin is the same stuff that lobsters, ticks, fleas, crabs, cockroaches are made out of. It's basically impenetrable by the human immune system. The body has a really hard time to get into the colony. And when we look at mushrooms in the wild, what do they have? They have hyphae. They have those roots that poke through and then grow. And Candida does the same thing. It grows that exoskeleton, starts to poke hyphae, which causes leaky gut in your system, and disperse its mycotoxins into your bloodstream. Yeast doesn't do this. Fungus, mold, like if we have black mold in our house, that stuff's lethal because the mycotoxins are minute. They get into the air, and now you're attached to this thing like an IV drip of mycotoxins that are attacking your pituitary gland, which is attacking your metabolic system. So even your adrenals. It's going after healthy liver cells. It's going after healthy immune system cells. It's basically destroying your immune system, your detox pathways. It's producing an alcohol byproduct called acetaldehyde. And that stuff is what gives you the hangover. When you drink alcohol, alcohol turns into acetaldehyde, and then you're hungover, you're nauseous, you're sensitive to the light, you might have some joint pain. That's like that toxin building up in your system. And so now you're again hooked up to this thing that's constantly releasing alcohol byproduct into your system, again further depleting your liver function. And it's most people have it and they don't realize because they feel tired or nauseous, or brain fog is normal, or they've got joint pain, or they're a little bloated after meals. And these small little nuanced symptoms, they collect and they build and build and build, and at one point it's gonna explode and you're gonna have some diagnosable condition like an autoimmune condition, or I've even been seeing it develop diabetes in people, and worst case scenario cancer, because that sweet sugary or alcohol byproduct feeds cancer cells. And then you go into chemo, they zap your system, destroying everything but the fungus, and the fungus continues to grow. And then most people that, I'm going on a tangent here now, right, will end up succumbing to a candida infection after chemo, not cancer. And this is on the CDC website. It's like, if you go through a round of chemo, do like an antifungal, but they don't really address this. And so it's this like deep epidemic that drives not just sugar cravings in people, but really like chronic, dangerous conditions. So when I found that out, I was like, oh my God, get this thing out of my body.
Yeah, it's brutal. And I moved to Costa Rica like 3.5 years ago, and the first place I stayed in was super moldy, and I didn't really know like the dangers of living in a moldy space like that. And within 6 months, it was like my health just completely tanked, like everything. And even just like kind of fixing myself up and like detoxing that out of my system has taken years. It's crazy. I have like a very sensitive nose or like system to when mold is in a room now, just like after going through that. And it isn't like I like necessarily start sneezing or like there's an allergy or like my skin flares up. I feel like this sense of doom, like impending doom, like just bad energy. My thoughts turn bad, all of this stuff. And it's like whenever there's mold present.
Yeah, when mold's present in the body or like in the environment, I say you get moldy thoughts too. You get moldy, parasitic thoughts. Your perspective on life just plummets. You're apathetic. You don't have energy, or you're like hyper vigilant too, and like your body's just in a survival mode, in a stress response that can't turn off. And exposure to mold can take some time to recover from, and it's like almost in the club for life. Your body becomes hypersensitive to mold spores, so it's kind of like, welcome to the club, bud.
Yeah. I'm in. I'm in that club.
Yeah, your spidey senses are tingling. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. It isn't like these super clear symptoms. It's like you just know something's terribly wrong. Something that it's so funny when you go down these rabbit holes of fixing these things. One of the things I learned through that process was pillows come with an expiry date on them. you know? And I had no idea that was even a thing. And I was like going through all the pillows in my place. I was like, what the fuck? These are all like 10 years expired, And even just like changing all of those out dramatically made changes.
And you can smell it too. It's like this musky, like, yeah, smell. It's funny you mentioned that. I was just like scrolling the other day and this comedian popped up on my feed talking about pillows. This exact thing. It's like, when was the last time you bought a pillow? You probably have it. You've had the same pillow for over a decade. Hey, it's just like worn out. It's not even filled anymore. And you're readjusting it to make it work. It's like, just go get yourself a new pillow. Come on.
Hmm. And I mean, like, if you're living in Canada, I guess it's not too bad. Like, you still get mold and stuff there. But like living in Costa Rica, the wet season is so brutal. Like you just can't escape the humidity, and even if you're running a dehum in your closet like the whole time, like shit still gets moldy, and it's just like kind of sad. So I buy a new set of pillows like every year. It's like the best investment. So what do you recommend for like getting mold out of the body?
Well, I predominantly work with lufeneron, and lufeneron is a pharmaceutical that was developed, I want to say like 50 years ago or so. And it specifically addresses species that use chitin as their exoskeleton. All it is a chitin enzyme inhibitor. It prevents that organism from making its exoskeleton. So it works on Candida, but a lot of different mold species and parasite species. And even I've seen it help bring people with Lyme disease into remission or into recovery, because the Lyme works or needs chitin to proliferate. It lives on, with ticks. And when you remove the chitin, they don't have that material that they need to like reproduce in. There's some weird connection. I remember when I found a study of this, it made so much sense. Like, why Candida and Lyme go together. So I work with lufeneron, and then what I like about it is it's completely inert to the human body. It doesn't get processed by the liver or the kidneys. It's absorbed by the fat and goes into your tissues, where it's stored and then released over time. So it doesn't damage our detox pathways, and that's one of the dangers with like a traditional antifungal, is it's incredibly toxic to the liver. And if you have a mold or fungal infection, your liver is already suffering. So to go in there with something that will hurt it even further can cause a lot of damage. So I've been working with lufeneron since I found out about it when I was 20 from my brother, and it's this day the most effective thing I've seen.
Yeah, that's amazing. I've never used it, so I'm gonna have to hook up and get some bottles for sure. I think it'd be good. And are you mixing that with like binders and other things to help pull everything out of the body, or does the body do a pretty good job of just kind of clearing house?
Oh, no, no, of course. It's like this is the compound that gets at the armor, but you have to support your detox pathways. So if you're very sick and backed up, you've got to work on supporting the liver, cleaning out the lymphatic system, definitely taking binders, taking supports for the liver like alpha lipoic acid or even liposomal glutathione. Like, you really want to make sure that your detox pathways are clear and functioning, because if you start killing this thing, it starts dying and releasing even more toxins, and it can just create really unbearable die-off symptoms. And die-off is feeling worse before you feel better, and sometimes it feels like absolute death. It feels like you're dying because this thing that's inside of you, that's now like hijacked your nervous system and your perception of reality, is also dying. So it ends up actually being quite a spiritual experience when you're purging this. you know we talk about entities in the psychedelic space, but these parasites, they're entities. They live inside of us, feeding off of our life force, hijacking our, desires, like food cravings, for example, or even when that nervous system is in constant fight or flight, fighting an infection, we are hyper vigilant. So it's like we actually aren't ourselves. We're infected by this thing. So when we go through that cleanse, it can be quite a spiritual exorcism, getting it out. But then what happens on the other side is like, wow, the clouds part, and it's like, wow, this is what it feels like to be alive. There's my vitality. There's my wonder. There's my creativity. There's my curiosity. Like, there's my joy for being alive. I'm no longer in survival mode, just trying to get through the day like another robot in society living by the rules. I'm all of a sudden like, curious and living outside of the box and actually being a free thinker, no longer governed by fear. It's like, wow, I'm reclaiming my sovereignty. And, some institutions don't want that. So that's why this like little conspiracy thing around Candida is like, that's why it's not even addressed. People, if your average doctor will say you're just making it up, or that there's no cure, or the things that they offer don't actually help because it's not really studied, and it's a really profitable disease. Not even a disease, it's a profitable condition that leads to profitable diseases, because a sick person is a person that will, um, spend money to get better, and there's profit there.
Yeah, and then like just for like the people listening, like this isn't like even like the parasites and the candida. This isn't like a third world thing. It's like everyone's full of them, you know. And like you were saying, it's crazy when you start to clear this stuff out. I just did a pretty intense parasite cleanse at the end of last year, and one day I like passed this. God, it would have been like 1 2 foot size tapeworm, and all day I was like not good in the head. I was like super anxious and nervous and like just feeling really off. And I was like, man, like what is going on? Like I'm relatively in tune with like the energies that are affecting me. And then go to the bathroom and this thing comes out. It's just like, this long. And it was just like, oh, and then all the energy cleared. And it was like, what the fuck? Like these things affect us so much psychologically.
I'm curious what protocol you were on to have that beautiful, beautiful excretion.
I mean, kind of just like a whole bunch of things I've come across, like I started off doing like liver flushes with the Epsom salt and the apple juice and stuff like that. And I did a mucoid plaque flush. I got these like 3 year fermented uh it's like a mega dose of digestive enzymes from Thailand. It's called Zen Cleanse One, and like the shit that comes out of you is just like unbelievable, And then like once my guts were pretty good, and I find like you kind of want to be going to the bathroom like 2 3 times a day to like really allow all the detox to happen. Because if you're just bunged up and your guts are all fucked up, it's like you can't just stick a whole bunch of antiparasitics in the system. Like you were saying, like the die off just destroys you. You're like a husk. And then yeah, I just moved into like taking some antiparasitics. So like the clove and the black walnut husk and kind of like that whole array. And then I was also filling them up in suppositories and just going straight up the other end. And then enemas and all sorts of stuff. But once it like started clearing, it's like even now, it's like, I haven't taken any antiparasitics in months, but it's like my guts are healing. And every time there's a release, it can heal more, which pushes more out. And like I still have things clearing.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. Yeah, they say tapeworm, like a tapeworm lays 100,000 eggs a day. Something ridiculous like that.
Mhm. It's absurd. And I mean, I like went down the parasite rabbit hole from drinking ayahuasca, and she was showing me all these worms, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And she was like, this is inside your gut. And I was like, oh, okay. Okay. Message received. Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, people don't get it. Like our intestines are, if you like rolled them all out, it's the size of a tennis court. And in that is like a shag rug the size of a tennis court. And then imagine all those little like filaments, or that little, what's he call it, like finger like protrusions in the shag rug. All those also have little protrusions, and it's like there's so much surface area for stuff to live in. Like our carpet, you have to vacuum that like regularly, right? There's stuff in there all the time. And so it's like considering that like we also have to help clear things out. It's like, also I give the metaphor of like a garden. It's alive. There's an ecosystem in there. We have to tend it. And yeah, the different seasons of gardening. I'm like, I use this analogy, but I'm a terrible gardener. All my plants die outside. But you got to go out there. You got to mulch and give nutrition to the soil. You got to, take the pests out, and you got to plant things that are like in harmony with one another so that they support each other's growth. It's like the same thing is in us. And I really do like turning to nature to learn about the nature of reality and the nature of this body, because we're not separate from the earth. How we see the ecosystems working is we have those inside of ourselves as well.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, like the amount of stuff that we're exposed to is unbelievable. And like you were pointing out, like all the medications and like all the heavy metals in our diets, like my partner Emily, she does HTMA testing, and I got my minerals tested and my mercury was just through the roof. And I was like, where did this even come from? You know? And like that's what like opens up all these portals for these like crazy things to get inside of us.
Hmm. Yeah, I heard the guy Rick Malter, he developed HTMA, and I have a good friend who's friends with him, and he's a deeply spiritual man, and he was linking actually, the state of our consciousness is connected to our mineral balance, because these minerals are like spark plugs to our electricity, to we are a conduit. So how we are conducting our consciousness, because consciousness is not, in the body, it's out here somewhere and we're attuning to it. And then when the wrong minerals are plugged in, it can fry that and we can attune to something else or become vulnerable to these other energies to come in. So, yeah, I mean, that's as far.
It's definitely spiritual. Like, Emily looks at people's charts and she's like, "Oh, they have mummy issues." You know, There's like certain relationships between the minerals. It's just like, oh, if this one's way out, it's like that's mummy shit. That one.
That's mom, that's dad, that's this. Oh, that's awesome. So she reads the charts?
Yeah. Uh huh.
Oh, great. I love that. It's so nuanced too.
Yeah, and it's good too because like we diet quite a bit. Yeah, like with the master plants, like you're going like no salt, no nothing for months at a time. We did a year. We closed out at the sort of the beginning of last year, and right away we just like did a HTMA and just be like, okay, like where are we at? Because that can kind of throw you out a little bit. So it's nice to like work out how to get back to normal living.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm curious, how does a dieta, like say like you finished a year-long dieta, like how did that affect your minerals?
I mean, my sodium levels were just like zero, obviously. So that had to get fixed up. The amount of heavy metal detoxing that happened was insane too. Because like when you're taking it out of the hair, right? It's actually the body's already pushed it out. So like some people will be like heavy metal toxic, but they won't show in their hair tests because their body's like just literally holding on to all of it, right? So it's actually a good sign when it's like you see it clearing, it means it's moving. But my mercury and like aluminum levels were like 5 times higher than before dieting.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's time. I think we dive into Cambo.
Oh, yes, Canva. It's a good segue.
I love Cambo. I'll just preface with a little story about how I came to Cambo. Um, so obviously, like just drinking ayahuasca and sort of being on the medicine path, you get exposed to a lot of the jungle medicines. And I'd done Cambo maybe like 4 or 5 times just for like house cleaning type things. But I got bit by a brown recluse spider, and it put this like inch deep hole in my leg. And I was like, my body will heal it. My body will heal it. And a month passed and it just like nothing had healed. It just got way worse. And I basically had to go to the hospital to get them to like just cut off all the necrotic skin and basically like reset the wound. And they wanted to put me on antibiotics. And I just like will never do a course again for the rest of my life after the staph infection. And instead, I did what was like 8 points of Kambo, and it was brutal. It was like 19 minutes before I purged. It was like pins and needles all over my body. It felt like someone set me on fire. And then finally, like, released, and just like so much bile and battery acid and just like all that good stuff. But I just healed like so well afterwards. Within a week, I was like basically back to my normal being again. And that's when I was like, okay, I really understand like the power and the beauty of this medicine. And so ever since, I've just been like in love with that spirit. So I'm curious, like, when you went from like participating towards being like, I want to learn and start serving.
Hmm. I never wanted to serve it, actually. I had hosted a friend, or I want to say, mm, she wasn't a friend yet. At our space, she needed a space to do Cambo. She was here from Oregon, and she was a presenter at the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference led here in Vancouver. And she did the thing about Cambo and needed a place to serve, and I offered my space, and we did 3 days in a row. And this was I had sat with Kambo back in Ecuador before, and this was my third, fourth. I want to say my first time was in Ecuador, but I did it 3 times, and this was my second time doing 3 times again. And um, I mean, I don't like the experience. I hate the experience. I don't ever willingly want to do Kambo. And after doing those 3 days, anytime I would sit in meditation, this little frog would sit on my shoulder and say, "Hey, learn me, learn how to serve me." And I was like, "No, I don't want to." And I was really questioning, like, where is this desire to serve Kambo coming from? Like, do I want, like, am I, venerating or pedestaling this friend of mine? Or like, is it because I want to acquire another tool? I was really sitting with it. Like, no, I don't want to. I don't even like sitting with you. Why would I serve you? And this went on for like 6 months, and finally said, okay, if you really want this, if you want me to serve you, give me the money I need for the deposit for the training. And I was looking at the training with IAKP at the time, and the deposit I think was like $1,200. And in 24 hours, I get an email, and someone wants to sign up for one of my like highest tiered coaching sessions with Candida, which rarely anybody would buy, which happened to be exactly like $1,200. And I go, okay, I get it, fine. So I apply, I do the training, and then I'm in the training, and I'm like, you know what? Health coaching has been really hard. Coaching it in general, it's like convincing people that they need help. I sometimes felt like a salesman of, like there's all these marketing tactics and sales funnels. We see this all the time in the coaching world of like, here's your pain point and let me red salt in it. And it's like, I hate that. I didn't like that with my coaching practice or like the company I was working with. It's like, I don't want to do that with medicine. I don't want to have to hustle to find clients. Like, that's not how it should be with medicine. So I will agree to work with you if you just effortlessly send me people who want to work with this medicine and who find me, right? And lo and behold, I finish and I get home, and an hour later after my training, my friend's like, I have someone who wants to do Cambo. They want to do Cambo with you. I'm like, I haven't even gotten my buckets yet for people to puke in. Like, okay. And that's how it started. And people just found me because I think that was my agreement is I want this to be really clear and in integrity. I'm in service to Cambo. Right. I say, like, it's my boss. And she will send me people that need it. And it's been this beautiful collaborative relationship ever since.
Yeah, amazing. Great CEO, Cambo Spirit. Yeah, that's a good, that's a good contract you signed. Love it. Yeah. Okay. So Cambo is often grouped with psychedelics, and there is no shift in perception, really, that happens during the ceremony. So, how do you differentiate Kambo from that world? And like, where do you see it fitting in?
That's a really good question. I appreciate it because it's often confused with bufo because it's Cambo, bufo, frog, toad, and yeah, it's grouped in that class of psychedelics, but it's not. Like you said, it doesn't expand your consciousness. It doesn't create visionary states of direct revelation with unconscious material or source, or these mystical experiences that people have when working with things like plant medicine. It is a purely physical experience, right? It's peptides that are dysregulating you momentarily to bring deeper regulation and immune modulation and detox to the body. So it's actually not mind expanding. People don't walk away with deep insights. They usually walk away feeling more grounded and embodied. So in my experience, it's not a psychedelic. However, I think where it fits into that world, it's excellent preparation and can be a good integration tool for integration. So preparation, so a lot of people jump into psychedelics, say they watch Fantastic Fungi and they're like, "Great, I want to do a deep experience. Give me 5 grams of mushrooms to heal my PTSD." But they've never had an experience of intentional intensity or loss of control, um, or even know how to navigate emotional dysregulation, right? Like, so throwing them into a deep experience might not be the best thing for their nervous system or the psyche, right? So I really like Cambo to it's like practice. It's like, okay, try 20 minutes of dysregulation. We're loss of complete control and you have to surrender. And let's just start with physical, because as soon as we bring in the visuals and because psychedelics can also hijack our perception of reality and our emotions. All of a sudden, we're just plunged into fear or panic or just discomfort or anger, right? When the mind and the emotions come online, it's harder to navigate that dysregulation. So with Cambo, it's like, let's just stick with the physical. Can you be with puke and vomit and shaking and physical discomfort um, as like a initiation experience for a more intense experience of psychedelics, and at the same time, it brings deeper regulation and stability and grounding into a person's nervous system so that they become more resilient in a psychedelic experience, or prepare them for even breath work, like learning how to move energy with your own will rather than being forced to break open. So I find that our culture in the West is like, go big or go home. I want it now. Like, I want to heal now, but the body doesn't work that way. It needs to move slowly. And so I find that I often slow people down, and introduce them with Cambo for, yeah, that greater regulation and also clearing out. Like we mentioned, like we're so most people are so toxic and so inflamed that when they go do Aya without prep, it's a really uncomfortable, pukey experience. It's not much visionary things, because Aya is working on your physical body, and that's what the importance of that dieta is, right? So it's like you want to clear out. So um, Cambo can do that. It can clear that out so that you can prepare for something like Aya or Iboga with less of a purgative experience in those experiences. And it's like it's said that, yeah, you can clear out so the plant medicine can meet you in deeper layers of yourself.
Yeah, 100%. I just served Cambo to someone, well, it was like 2 weeks ago, and mostly just a normie, like very bright spirit underneath, but just the very beginning of his journey. And after the ceremony, he was like, "I just can't think," and I was like, "Yeah, like that's the beauty. It's like just turn the mind off, like let everything settle." And then I don't honestly do mushrooms very much at all these days. But I actually ate 5 grams of mushrooms with him after his ceremony. Like it was a couple days later, and he was like, "I usually get so nauseous, and there's like no nausea." It's like it's the Cambo, you know. It's like such an amazing preparation to work with all these things because it does quiet the mind. It does allow like the consciousness to flow through your vessel so much smoother. So although it's not psychedelic, it's like it's just perfectly like woven with that world, you know? And I mean, how Cambo, I mean, you might be able to tell the story better than me of like how Cambo came about, but it came through visionary states in ayahuasca.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a full story that all the tribes share, and they all have similarities. And the tribes even argue amongst themselves of who was the first one to discover this. But it's an oral story that has been passed down for hundreds of years because they've been working with Kambo for, I mean, in my training, it was like 800 years, 900, 100. We don't know because time is obsolete in those spaces. There's no recorded literature of things. Everything's just passed down orally. Um, so yeah, there's this tribe, and everyone starts getting sick and dying, and the pages, the healers, are trying everything and nothing was working. So the chief, his name is Kampum, as a last resort, sits with Aya and is begging, like, please, please tell me what to do to save my people. And she shows him this vision of this frog, of how to harvest, what to do. So the next day, they find the frog, they follow the precise directions, and that's precise. So those of you who don't know or are listening to this, Kambo is the excretion of the giant green monkey tree frog. Um, and you take its secretion, you sort of wiping the frog, and you're giving it a nice little pet. Then you burn yourself to expose the lymphatic system, and you put that secretion onto your skin, and then you start vomiting, and it looks like you've been poisoned. And a lot of times people think it is poison, and that's why you're puking, because you're poisoning yourself. So that's like a myth we can bust right away. um, but on the outside it looks terrifying. You're like, why would I do this? So you can imagine, like, the first people who did this had to have a lot of trust in Aya, right? In the spirit of like, okay, like, there's so much, so many poisonous species out there in the Amazon that, like, you just have to trust. Okay, I guess this is good for me. And yeah, it was. Everyone started healing and getting better, and then this information was passed on and named Kambo after the chief Kampum. And so traditionally it is used for malaria, for viruses, for snake bites, for, you know, like spider bites. It's such an awesome story that you shared, because like that's exactly what they're using it for. It's their medicine. It's the vaccine of the forest. It helps women with fertility. It helps the men with hunting and stamina. It's Yeah, it's truly medicinal. And so to call it a poison is really a deep, sad misunderstanding.
Hmm. Yeah, okay, let's just destroy that one right now. Because even saying Cambo and poison in the same sentence makes me feel icky, you know? So many people think Cambo is a poison with this intense purge. So from a physiological perspective, what is actually happening during the body when the Cambo is applied?
Simply put, peptide signaling. So this secretion in Cambo, there's about 27, 30, people argue about the numbers all the time, different kind of peptides. And all a peptide is, it's a train or a chain of amino acids. 50 or less is a peptide, 50 or more, or 100 more, depending on who you ask, is a protein. And all a peptide is doing, it's kind of like pressing a button in our cellular biology, or maybe like a key. It's a key that's going into a lock, it's turning the lock, and then it's stimulating a function in the body. So these peptides so what you see, the reactions you see. So you see um, a flushing, a heat sensation. Sometimes the heart starts pounding really fast because what's happening, veins are opening up because Campbell's pressing one of those buttons. Hey, veins, open up. The heart starts pounding, the head flushes, you feel pounding in the head, woof, 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 flushing. Then nausea comes and the blood pressure drops. All of this are peptides. Phylomedusin causes blood pressure to drop. Then we have gastric juice secretion. So the liver and the gallbladder are dumping bile into the stomach. And part of the detox is that bile being dumped into the stomach, because bile does carry mycotoxins, heavy metals, excess hormones like estrogen, and that's going into the stomach. So you're kind of getting this like oil change for your body. And because Campbell's telling your body to do that, it's like, hey, dump your bile. hey, get sweaty, get hot. Hey, it starts to move, contract the bowels, because it's telling your body to like let that shit go. So you might have a bowel movement. There's some purgative ones where you have the urge to purge. And this is all happening because your Campbell's telling your body to do it versus like being poisoned where your body's like, oh shit, get this out, like alcohol poisoning, or if you've ever had like a parasite or a bacteria, all of a sudden you have the poops, and it's because the body's like, get this out. Where it's very different with Kambo. Kambo is instructing your body to do this, and you know, the the funny part here, like the cosmic joke here, is that the same peptides that are causing you to vomit have some really medicinal benefits. So, phylocerulin, for example, it's involved with pain. So we have like what's called a nociception in the body. So this is our ability to perceive threat like hot, cold, burning, fire. And sometimes people in chronic pain, their nociceptors are just like overreactive. So you take Cambo, and the peptide that causes you to puke actually helps reset your nociception. So now all of a sudden, this like pain you had was just hypervigilance, and the body is reset. And it's like, wow, I'm not in pain anymore because that was just phantom pain. So there's these examples of Kambo helping reduce pain, modulate the immune system, so helping your immune system become more intelligent of what is friend and what is foe. Really important for autoimmune conditions. There's dermaceptin, which is attacking these parasites, the biofilms around parasites and bacteria and candida. It's balancing neurotransmitters, so it's really helpful for mood regulation, balancing serotonin and dopamine. There's ones that are 50 to 1,000 times stronger than morphine. I mean, it's like a big ratio depending on what animal they're studying because it's done in animals, but it's shown to outperform morphine. So we have these incredible medicinal properties that are also affecting us on a genetic level. They can influence how our genes are expressing. If we're, down regulating inflammations, or we have like cancer genes turned on, it can flip things on to help bring the body back to this like optimal baseline of function and well-being. So yeah, it's kind of like we have to suffer a little bit for 20 minutes in that dysregulation and that purge to receive those like deeply medicinal properties. So in the end, it's the farthest thing from poison. And people who often are like, why would I do that? Why would I take frog poison? And then they're like drinking some wine, which is a carcinogen. Alcohol is a carcinogen, or like smoking their vape. It's like, you kind of have to, let's redefine poison here.
Yeah, and I think that's like a really fun aspect as well of Cambo is just the purge for people who like aren't around the plant medicine world. And like you said, it's like everyone's, at least like Westerners, like their experience with vomiting is like alcohol poisoning. That's what they associate the two with. It's like it's not like a cleaning process that the body does. So like coming with that intention is so important as well. Yeah, that was an awesome breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, we can dive deeper into some other peptides, but the funny thing with like, I wanted to piggyback on your share there with vomiting. I was at my acupuncturist getting acupuncture, and she sees all these burn marks, because I have a lot on my back. And she goes, what are these things? And I go, oh, Kambo. And she goes, what's Kambo? I wish I could do her accent. She's this tiny little like 90-pound Chinese woman in her 60s. I'm like, oh, it's frog secretion, and it makes you purge and vomit and detoxes the system, and kind of have like a language barrier, right? She goes, oh, yes, purging or puking gets rid of evil chi. We have herbs for that.
Exactly, right? Exactly.
Yeah. And I was like, great, getting rid of evil chi. And then the cool thing with that was, in the tribes, the traditional, one of the belief systems, that Kambo gets rid of panema, which is dark, dense energy in the body that causes disease and laziness and depression, all these like mental health issues that we see. They think it's like, their idea is it's panema, it's this dense energy. So evil chi and panema, whatever we believe in, it seems to be like cultures across the globe have a different understanding of, yeah, these subtle energies and how to work with them to create well-being. So Kambo helps to clear out, and then acupuncture also helps to improve the flow of chi. So it was really neat in that moment to see the overlap.
Hmm. For sure. And it's kind of acupuncture-esque, with like nice little points.
And we can actually work with the acupressure or acupuncture points with Kambo. That's um, one way of working with it.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to dive into that. Like, you know, I'm a little bit rogue where like I haven't gone through like, a training school, how I've like learned to work with the medicine. I mostly just like sat with people and then I had someone sort of teach me how to do it. And then I just went through like a stick on myself in the span of like 2 weeks. And then I was like, okay, I'm like, I got a good flow here. Um, so like just working with the spirit directly, more or less, and just making sure no one gets hurt with like, just the water levels and all of this. Because like Cambo is funny, like when my mom started to work out the world and the path that I'm walking, it was like LSD. I was like, okay, do your thing. Mushrooms, it's like, okay, do your thing. It's like ayahuasca, do your thing. And then I was back in Sydney and she saw the points on me. She was like, "What's that?" I was like, "It's Cambo." She's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe you did that. Like, that's the one. People die doing that, you know?" And so, like, what are some of the, why is there cases of like people running into serious issues from your perspective?
Say malpractice and not understanding the nuances of the medicine, and sometimes honestly spiritual ego. Sometimes people are like, oh, the medicine told me to do this, and um when they're not actually clearly seeing what's happening in the body due to the peptide activity. Like and but the two most dangerous things I'd say is water, right? People are drinking way too much water, 5 liters, 4 liters. It's like maximum 3 liters. Maximum 3 liters that you're drinking. Any more than that, and you can go into hyponatremia. You're flushing out the electrolytes in the body, the brain cells swell, and you go into a coma. And that and you die, basically. If you don't catch it, you go into a coma and you die. And catching the early stages of it can be really helpful because the first the person starts to feel a bit disoriented or aggressive or violent, and all of a sudden you can just be like, oh yeah, they're just purging anger or like purging an entity. It's like, no, this person's brain is swelling. You got to get them to the hospital. So I'd say hyponatremia, people not understanding that you just can't drink copious amounts of water, and also understanding the contraindicators. So people who don't think that it's just for everybody. It's not with people who've had strokes or aneurysms or blood clots. It's not for people who are going through chemotherapy or who have heart conditions where they can't do cardio, or Ehlers-Danlos syndromes or Addison's disease, right? There's all these like really nuanced things, or even certain medications are really actually quite not are nuanced as well, but quite safe with Cambo. But again, it's worth understanding like the physiology of what's happening physically in the body with these peptides, so you can and then understanding a person's health condition. And this is requires a little bit of like a medical background, all right, and even a detox background. If too much Cambo at once can really damage a system if the person is overwhelmed with inflammation, toxicity, infection, and nervous system dysregulation. You can really just like throw gasoline on the fire and throw them and spiral them off into more inflammation and more die off. So I'd say like working with those nuanced conditions, you can cause a bit of damage. And the the only place in the world right now where it's illegal is Australia. And we still don't know what happened, but somebody died, and it's suspected that they had a contraindication, a heart condition. The papers were never released from the coroner of what the actual cause of death was, but there was a suspicion of yeah, an uh, not undiagnosed or unrevealed heart condition. So in my perspective, like Canva is actually really safe when done appropriately through screening, and then a person understands Yeah, water guidelines, or also how to support somebody in their purge, because you can faint. And that's really common too, because blood pressure drops rapidly due to multiple peptides acting on blood pressure at the same time. And catching those symptoms, person is going pale, they're becoming really still, and all of a sudden they're like nodding off. And if all of a sudden they have to go to the bathroom and they jump up and they want to go to the bathroom, and you're like, okay, have fun in the bathroom, and then halfway across the room they fall over and smack their head on the wall. It's like you gotta you gotta be aware of what's happening when in a Kambo ceremony, what peptides are doing what, and really support somebody safely. So I think that's that.
Yeah. I mean, when the off switch gets flicked, it's so wild. I almost see it like you have to like reset the computer to install updates, People just gone. It's bizarre. It's bizarre, but it's also beautiful.
Yeah, it's like the brain shuts off to regulate blood pressure. So physically that's what's happening. It's just like boop, and then they wake up 3 seconds, 4 or 5 seconds later. If it's a minute, that's actually, hey, hey, their blood pressure has gone so low. This is dangerous right now. Like, we actually have to probably call an ambulance, right? So, again, there's like these little nuances of like how low is their blood pressure, and how can we help them raise their blood pressure after? Is it salt? Is it licorice tea? Is it elevating their legs? So there's a bit of first aid involved as well. But from that spiritual perspective, because Kambo, there's a very much a scientific perspective, and then spirit is up for interpretation depending on our own lens of reality. And there is this nuanced effect of when people pass out. Yeah, all some say that like the conscious mind just doesn't want to see what's going to come up, so it goes, oh, I'm not going to look. And then when they wake up, the purge comes. So with yeah. And so take that with a grain of salt if you believe that or not, or if it's just a blood pressure thing.
I mean, I even find that with ayahuasca too, where sometimes the purge will be coming up and like she almost like can give you an out sometimes. And she'll be like, look at this beautiful thing over there. And you're like, oh, what's that? And it's like while she's distracting you with this, she's like working on something, you know? So it makes sense that Cambo has its own kind of way of doing that because obviously there's no visual way to distract the person. So it's either like you're in or you're out.
Yeah, and it sounds scary, but it's actually quite peaceful. People pass out and they don't even realize it. They just kind of just get really still and very quiet, and they just start like falling asleep. And then sometimes, most often, people don't they wake up and they don't even realize it happened. I'm sitting, beside them, maybe holding their head, or I've placed them on their side, and they're like, "Oh, hi. What's up?" I'm like, "Hi." I don't even say welcome back. I just, "Hi. You good? Okay."
Yeah. So okay. So with like this growing interest, it seems like Cambo is becoming a bit of a social phenomenon now. Everyone wants to do Cambo, and especially with like lots of talk around benefits for chronic conditions and inflammation and nervous system dysregulation. What have you observed in how different bodies respond?
Yeah, and this is where there's this like mystery piece to Cambo. Even when it comes to how many points you're gonna do, it's not dependent on body size. Sometimes I get, a large, 6'5" guy, pure muscle. He needs 2 points and he's retching. And then I have this, little girl to the side. She's 100 pounds and she's like, no, I'm really sensitive. And she's at 5 points. So there's no rhyme and reason. And some people will purge. It's a purgative. There's peptides in there that make you puke, but some people never puke. And that's something I want to speak to is, regardless if you puke or not, it's working. The peptides are in there. You're getting the dose that you need, because this is where, yeah, our ego doesn't like not knowing what's happening, but there's something under the surface that's happening. Like, we're inviting the consciousness of a frog into our system, into our body. They speak the same language. It's got these peptides that are speaking the language of our body. It's going in, doing its thing. And sometimes people puke, sometimes people don't. And it's working regardless. It's not about the puke. And so yeah, some people purge, some people don't. And then where I do see where we need nuanced, custom designed or custom tailored application is people who have some sort of chronic condition or like PTSD. Because when we have a chronic illness, there's four things happening, right? There is nervous system dysregulation from unprocessed trauma or energy, or there's some sort of repression or suppression of energy in the system that's causing dysregulation. And that causes inflammation and it has like this domino effect. Then we also have toxicity, like we mentioned, just through our own metabolism from day to day, but also the metabolism of these parasites, these infections. So those are the four things, dysregulation, infection, toxicity, inflammation, that I got to look at somebody who's considering to do Kambo. And if all those buckets are full, or then we have to take it slow, because the immune system's already overloaded, and that's where die off is going to be quite intense. Like it's probably like those are like real, not red flags, but precursors of saying like, oh, okay, we actually should spend some more time preparing. So yeah, let's do some coffee enemas. Let's support the liver with like alpha lipoic acid and NAC and L-glutathione, and get the lymphatic system moving and hydrate. Like all these tools that we do to prepare the body for Kambo, because the die off can really floor some people. And even after a session, some people bounce up after their nap, like, wow, I'm so ready, I'm so grounded, I'm so open, I'm so happy, let's go. And then some people are like, oh my God, like I just gotta go sleep for another 4 hours, and they pass out and they wake up the next morning. So you really never know what you're gonna get. But of course, in that intake, when I ask people about their health history and what's going on, I can maybe have clues to what to expect, but I never actually really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that there's also a level of like just trust in the medicine too, right? It's just like Cambo knows, like if everything's kind of done right, it's like Cambo knows.
Yeah, and then there's also like the consciousness piece. So, you know, when we're working with Kambo, sometimes people don't puke because they just didn't get enough peptides. Their tolerance is higher. Maybe sometimes someone's not purging because they're really clamped down. Their protectors are online and they're like, not letting go. And people who are quite guarded, or I've noticed people who are very intellectual, they use their mind to avoid feeling, clamp down harder, and they often need more Kambo because they're fighting it. So Kambo can be an experience of showing us our patterns in our consciousness. If we choose to meet Kambo in that way versus just seeing it as a puke. And this is what I weave into my work as well, is like, yeah, it's a purge, but you're revealing yourself to yourself everywhere you go and everything you do. So how you do one thing, you do everything. So how we sit with Kambo, some people really fight it, or some people really easily surrender to it. Some people are just constantly wanting it to be over or trying to control it. So it's kind of like showing us, okay, like how do these patterns show up in your life?
hmm Can you sit in the fire? Yeah. And to be fair, it's not all bad either. Like I've definitely had ceremonies that were quite euphoric at times, you know, but it's also just 20 minutes. You can do anything for 20 minutes, you know.
Yeah, I call that the Kambo kiss. I've gotten that once in my life, where no amount of Kambo, I was like, but I want to puke. Like I'm here to, I need a good purge. And I'm looking at my teacher. It was in advanced training, and I was like, give me more. And she put more on, and I was like, I still just feel happy. Like, give me more. And in those moments, I was like, but I want to. I want puke. And sometimes people are like, what am I doing wrong? It's like, no, you just get the kiss right now. And that's where we can trust Kambo. Sometimes when we're like, life is just really hard, and we come to Kambo because it does help with creating greater capacity for life. Like this is one thing I love about Kambo, is like you don't have to have your shit together. You don't need to do this like to have all your ducks in a row. You can actually come when everything's falling apart. That's one of the traditional ways to sit with Kambo, actually, is when everything's falling apart. and going to shit is like clearly you're not in harmony, like something's rearranging itself and we need integration. Come sit with Kambo. It's an intense experience, but again, those peptides are going to bring greater regulation and clarity so that you know you're not in fight or flight, you rest and digest, and you have clarity to move forward. um, but I find that in those moments of intense, when life is intense, Kambo comes in softer. It's gentle. It's For one woman, I watched her have an orgasm. She was like, "This is amazing. I love Kambo." It's like, I want what you have. We're Kambo. Come on. And then other times you come to Kambo and you're like, "Yeah, I'm so life is so good right now. I'm so solid. I got this," and it just tears you apart and gives you the most intense experience because you're ready for it. So I want to say that Kambo has a bit of a sense of humor in that way.
Hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And like this is like it's real spirit medicine. Like Cambo has a spirit. Although it is peptides, it's also not, It does have a sense of humor to it. 1,000%.
Yeah. And like oddly enough, like here in the West, most practitioners will bring in ritual or ceremony to it. Some people will do it more clinical, but traditionally in the jungle, it's not a shamanic medicine. It's not ritualistic. There isn't, an opening of space and calling in the protectors, or when I've sat with Aya in with the Yawanawa, and their ayahuasca ceremonies were extravagant. The opening prayers are 45 minutes long. There's dancing, there's songs, right? There's like a chief or the page holding space. It's big. It's big energy. Kambo, it was the kids that took us, and they took us to harvest the medicine. And yeah, it was the chief's son. I think he was like 14 or 15. And then they served us the medicine and it was like, okay, come here, get a burn, drink your kaisuma, here, put the slime on. And then like we're on the side of the river. There was like no preparation, no nothing. People are puking. I was having a bottom purge, and there's so many bugs in the Amazon, like in the jungle. There's just so many bugs that want to eat you constantly. So I'm trying to like cover like a scarf around me to give myself some privacy on the side of the river, and also protection from these bugs. And there's like this little cute little 4-year-old just fanning me. He's got a fan and he's just like smiling at me like, ah, and I'm just like disheveled and sweating and just like, oh my God, I could stop. And then I look over and one of my friends is having a really hard time, like almost like a panic attack. Like it's so intense for her. And what do? They take her and they just throw her in the river.
Uh-huh.
And she's like nearly drowning. And we come out after this and she's like, "What the fuck was that?" Like, never doing that again. And I'm laughing. And I'm like, that's the jungle experience for you. I'm like, if you want your mat and your toilet paper and your fuzzy blankets, like come to me. I'll give you a sound bath after with my crystal bowls. I'm trauma informed, right? It's a softer experience here, where down there it's kind of like a barbecue, or you're just doing it casually, and sometimes it's just in a family living room, and people are just like laughing and joking and like celebrating you, but it's not this like intense spiritual like ceremony. I'll say, except the Matsis tribe, because I do want to speak to the traditional uses and the tribes. So the Kambo comes from the Amazon, and there's many tribes that work with Kambo. And Matsis tribe is the unique tribe that only works with Kambo. It doesn't work with ayahuasca, doesn't work with any visionary plants. Like, so they do hold Kambo in a more of a ceremonial, ritualistic way. But the other tribes tends to be a little more casual.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I haven't like done this myself, but I know some of like the Peruvian tribes, they don't even drink water. It's all dry.
Hmm. I haven't done that, but I know it's extremely uncomfortable. Yeah, it's like, ugh. And I've heard also that it's, I mean, it's such a different experience. It's more of an internal experience, something an emotional experience. Um, Whereas the water makes it more of a physical experience, but I'm just speaking from hearsay here, so I can't really comment on it directly.
Interesting. Yeah. So like something that I did for a long time was like help people through the microdosing process. And something that I would come up against all the time is people taking SSRIs. And although it can be helpful, particularly more on the tail end of the taper, like once they're kind of clear off the medicine to rebalance everything, it isn't something that really jives well at all because they're competing for the same receptors in the brain, and it has like a massive dulling effect, and people aren't getting the benefits that they would like hope to see, so they often don't see it through either. So I'm curious like how Cambo can help with like the tapering process of different things like that and any contraindications.
Yeah, so as an advanced practitioner, I learned a way of working with Kambo that helps assist the actual tapering process so that there's no withdrawal symptoms. There's some sort of I still we still don't know to this day how it's working either because Kambo flushes things out of the system. So if you're on medication, it has the ability essentially to flush it out of the body. And also with how the opiate-like peptides in Kambo work to create mood stability, regulation, how they affect the HPA axis. It's creating some sort of regulation so that when we're working to taper off, you can sit with Kambo and then essentially like half the dose in overnight. And I've seen people, yeah. So I've seen people come off of like the my best oh, and it's not my best, but the most epic transformation story is this woman came and she wanted to do a deep dive journey with mushrooms, but she could take 5 grams and it wouldn't work because she was on antidepressants, SSRIs for 15 plus years. She was on 375 milligrams of Effexor, which is a massive dose. And she just wasn't, didn't want to do it anymore. She wanted to address her trauma. And so she came for Cambo and we got her off in 5 days, which is unheard of.
Wow.
Usually you have to go down by 10% and then you'll get nauseous and get brain zaps and vomit. If you taper too fast without Cambo, like it's incredibly dysregulating, brain zaps, insomnia, panic attacks, vomiting, and with Cambo, nothing. And she was a great case study because I told her, I was like, do not type taper without Cambo. And she's like, okay. So we had 2 sessions and she was like, I feel great. I feel regulated. I feel stable. And then she tried to taper without it and messages me. She's like, I've been so sick. I'm vomiting. I'm puking. And I'm like, girl, I was like, I told you, don't do it. Like, you can't just stop taking these medications. So she came back and she's like, okay, you're right. She didn't want to believe that it was Cambo. It was like, okay, you're right. Yeah, okay. It's actually Cambo that's helping. And so it was such a great example of like what the journey is like with or without. And yeah, and to date, there's been a number of people who've come off, and it's really exciting for me because right now the medical system and the mental health care system doesn't have a solution for the people who choose to come off. And this is to say, like, not that they're terrible medications or to shame anybody who's on them because it has saved so many people's lives and it works for a lot of people. But for some people, it's stopped working or it doesn't work or it makes them feel so numb and disconnected. They want to feel alive again, and there's no solution. It's like, okay, well, good luck. So yeah, I really like to bring this to light.
Hmm. And there's usually not a lot of guidance either. Like when I've had clients who've gone and be like, speak to your doctor about tapering, and they were just like, yeah, just like, when you're ready, just kind of stop taking it. And it's like, what the fuck? You know?
Yeah. Take 10%. Yeah, they say 10%. Only come down 10% at a time until you find your new baseline. But even then it can be really dysregulating, 10% at a time.
For sure. And it's like 4 weeks. Like to re-equalize to whatever the drop was is a 4-week process. So like you're going down 10%. It's like over a year.
Yeah, so it's a long time, and there's this solution. So I'm really excited to share about that. And I've also seen the same thing with opiates. So people who have an injury, right? Then they're put on what's it, diflucan or whatnot, the name of that opiate. But anyway, they're put on like an opiate painkiller, and then now their body is addicted, and they have to. One of my clients, like that's what happened to him. He had a busted knee, and he became dependent on it. And then the clinic like ran out of the opiate, so then he had to take what's that terrible thing that's in cocaine these days, where it's like laced.
Fentanyl.
Yeah, fentanyl. So he started taking fentanyl because he couldn't get access to his regular opiates. And I'm like, oh my God, like this is a medical healthcare system that we're on. And so I've helped people come off opiates as well, with no withdrawal symptoms. I like when I've asked, like my peers, like, how do you think this is happening? Because some other Kambo practitioners don't touch opiates, then they don't touch SSRIs, but I've trained in this way. And it's like, we still don't really know what peptides are doing in the body because they're all studied, um, like isolated in a petri dish. But we're not a petri dish, and they're not isolated. They come in all at once, and they all cause like a cascade effect. So, you know, I've listed some of these benefits of what a peptide does, but because it stimulates one function, that one function can stimulate five other things. And so honestly, like most of us practitioners have no idea what's going on. We are just we're just saying what we know about these peptides, but we really don't know. The science isn't there. It's anecdotal evidence. Um, yeah, so we're still like, what's it called? The wild wild west of Cambo right now.
Hmm. I mean, I feel like the medicine path is a little bit like that, where the magic itself is irrational in its very nature, you know. And the same with like the psilocybin too. There's dozens of alkaloids, in the mushrooms. It's not just psilocybin.
Yeah, there's so much more. Yeah, and one thing I did want to say that we're on the topic of tapering because it's on one hand, yes, it can be easy physically, but emotionally, like when we start to, because an antidepressant like suppresses emotion, right? And all of a sudden that suppressor isn't there anymore, and all of a sudden the gate can open to all these feelings, emotions that have been repressed, suppressed, and even past, like childhood memories, suppressed memories or painful past experiences will start to surface to come to the surface to be processed. So anybody who's considering tapering and working with Cambo or in whatever ways, like I highly recommend having a psychotherapist or somebody who's trained, to help you with the material that might surface, because that's one of the reasons depression was potentially there in the first place, is like the something happened to dysregulate the nervous system, and that stuff still has to be processed.
Hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's why the withdrawals are usually so hard. Like you said, like you open the floodgates of, you know, years of lack of emotional processing to some degree. So like, man, I have like the people who do it, especially who have like, come like tapered off 10 plus years, like they're brave. There's like serious courage to like do that because it is not an easy process by any means. But it's amazing that Cambo like can really help with like at least the physical withdrawal aspect of that.
Yeah, physical, and then also the mood stability, right? And so it's like if you're processing an intense emotion that is dysregulating, you can come to sit with Cambo to create that regulation so that you can be with the material and in a more coherent way that doesn't derail you. So essentially like creating more capacity for what arises.
100%. That was so beautifully said. So clean. So when we like, so like, ayahuasca is like the main path that I walk. And obviously we talk a lot about preparation and dieta leading into it. And I'm curious from your perspective what like solid, responsible preparation looks like for Cambo, and then as well as like the aftercare and the reintegration.
Yeah, I want to say that it is based per person, right? If I'm have somebody who, yeah, who I want to give like an example. Yeah, an alcoholic who is eating McDonald's, and smoking is going to be a very different preparation than somebody who has a yoga practice, sadhana yoga practice, who like hasn't touched alcohol in 15 years or something. Really looking at what the body first, like what the body needs for preparation. So I spoke to this before, as like might be the liver or the detox pathways or the colon. Um, but mostly it is quite a forgiving medicine. Like I can serve somebody who just did a recreational substance that earlier that week, you're just going to have a really challenge might have a more challenging experience. So the rule of thumb is like, come as clean as possible. So clean out your diet. Don't introduce any new toxins, at least for for the week coming up to your session. So this includes like healthy meats that are pasture raised, antibiotic free, clean water, and also drinking electrolytes. So being hydrated that can actually help with the detox process the week of. And then I like to consider your intention. So why are you coming to Kambo? Some people are coming for the physical detox. So it's like, okay, well, the physical detox can start a week prior. If someone's coming to say like more of a spiritual intention of connecting to their authentic self. That's a really popular one. People want to connect more deeply to their authentic self. And I'm like, okay, well, what does that mean? Maybe spend the week journaling about what your authentic self is, or visualizing, what life would be like if you're connected to your authentic self. um does your authentic self have a hobby? Okay, maybe it is painting. It's something you haven't allowed yourself to do. Like go to the store and like go pick up the paints. So there can be a preparation process that's much more custom designed to your intention. And when it comes to integration, there's the physical component. Is like, okay, even though your Canva experience is done, but it's still in your body, the after effects, that like domino effect, the cascading effect of peptides is still in your system. So treat this next week as a detox. So, have an Epsom salt bath and continue drinking lots of water. This is a powerful time for microbial shifts, right? Because there's all these peptides in there that are going after the pathogen. So take some probiotics, remove processed sugars and grains, and eat some prebiotics. Do some bone broth maybe for leaky gut. So it's a great time to help reset the gut and avoid sugar. And at the same time, what was your intention? Okay, if your intention was authentic self, what is one thing you can do this week to live your intention more fully, to embody your authentic self? Put it in your calendar and do it. And that's an integration piece that I have for all my practices. If it's breath work or ayahuasca or mushrooms or bufo, whatever your intention is, there's something you can actively do that's practical that you can put into your calendar and do it, because you have to meet the medicine there. You can't just expect your intentions to just manifest. Like, yes, that there's a passive way of working with these medicines, but we have to meet them there. We have to do the work too. And I think that's one of the ways of honoring these medicines, especially something like Kambo that comes from a living creature. Something is, you're literally taking something off of someone's back, and it's finite. It's not infinite. We don't just synthesize it. So really honoring the medicine, whatever medicine we're working with, is like doing what we can to embody and live our intentions.
Hmm. Yeah, 100%. I almost see like these medicines, how they work on our consciousness, you know? It's like we introduce the medicines and then the consciousness kind of spikes up from where we're at and then it comes down. It's like your job is to like pick how far down you go with your free will afterwards. It's like as long as you're kind of making steps each time, it's like then you're doing the medicine justice and you're like walking the path. Like you can't just like live a life of like darkness, and then expect to work with the medicines and then walk out and be like, I don't actually have to change anything.
It's like where you are in your life is because you're doing. I like to bring it back to the patterns. One of my that's We work with pattern work in my, I want to say, lineage. My teacher with Kambo International, we really work with patterns and observing the problematic patterns of human nature. And we are where we are because we're a conglomerate of patterns, and some of these patterns are creating the current conditions. And you will continue creating those current conditions unless you change your patterns or your behaviors. Where do patterns come from? They come from belief systems. Where do belief systems come from? Mostly an experience we had when we're young, and often they are painful, right? So I'm not good enough, right, can come from whatever my childhood story upbringing was, right? Or I'm not safe, I'm not lovable. We share all of these like really simple belief systems or that we have about life, and they're essentially like the laws of our life that inform pattern. So this is where we get to do that with like deep consciousness alchemy, where the pattern or the thing that we're trying to solve or change in our environment, day-to-day life, the roots go like so deep, and we can excavate to really find like the root of that. And that's what I love about mushrooms and Aya. For me, they help, and Bufo, they get to the root of something to pull it. And then that like deep excavation, I've noticed sometimes the pattern just isn't there. And that's like one of those experiences that's like a blessing, where it's like the integration is kind of like obsolete, because it's like the impulse isn't even there. The pattern is just gone because I got to the root. So I wanted to voice that, because yeah, sometimes the integration really involves our like applied action, but sometimes I've seen it just in my own life and in my client's life. It's just like some deep alchemy just happened because things are different and you don't even have to try.
Yeah, I'd almost like attach those ones that like you don't have to try to more of like a energetic parasite or something like that was just literally removed. You know, like sometimes things leave and just like everything rebalances it, just like a way nicer homeostasis.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like we're I call it like reparenting, repatterning. So my view of hmm, how do I describe this? So like we have these parts inside of us, and sometimes they're frozen in time. And so maybe there's a part inside that was um, abused as a young child in some way, and they really just wanted to say no. They really wanted to say no, get off, fuck you, but they couldn't. So now that like part is frozen in our nervous system, and then an experience like a ayahuasca experience or mushroom experience brings us to that part, to that moment, back in time in ourselves. And that's when we regress and we're like, oh my God, I'm like 5 years old and I'm really scared. And there's that perpetrator. And like we're reliving that memory. And all of a sudden, our current adult self comes online and is like, hey, no, fuck you. And all of a sudden, that moment in time is like rewritten, and all that stored energy of that was holding back the no comes through, and all of this life force is released, and it's like that part is liberated, that part is empowered, kind of like rescued from that place and time. And then that deep kind of experience translates to all of a sudden like, oh, my desire for alcohol is gone, because I was using alcohol to suppress like that feeling or that memory, but that memory is gone, or that feeling has moved through, and it's like my impulses have changed. um and that's like how these medicines work. So anyone who's like listening, considering doing these visionary medicines, it's not like you're gonna have an amazing experience and meet God and poof, you're healed. It's like you're gonna go in and do some deep work on yourself, and the most challenging experiences, the hard, difficult, scary ones, are the most life transformative.
100%. That was so beautifully said.
Mm. I mean, I speak from experience, and like that's what like we opened up this talk before, is like we're here because we've done that work, and we can only take people as far as we've gone ourselves.
hmm Absolutely. Yeah. And that's why I just, I kind of think it's funny sometimes with like the therapists and that sort of more clinical side of things. And really like when we're talking about like people's like well-being and vitality for life, or like looking at their consciousness, a lot of the time. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there who are therapists and they know everything in the book, but they don't have the lived experience of that evolution. And I think that's why so many people kind of get disheartened with that field.
Yeah, and I think that's why there's a big like underground movement, um, because this phenomenon, it's happening here. There's like an organization that was training therapists to lead like psychedelics, and they had one journey, and then they were like psychedelic assisted therapists, but they didn't understand the medicine world at all. um and uh, yeah, so there's this like controversy of integrity of like how, or some of them would read about it, not even do a journey, and then they're guiding others on like theoretical information. um yeah, it just doesn't sit right, versus someone who might not have the credentials of a psychotherapist, but has done so much inner work, who understand the nuances of those spaces and like, yeah, the intensity of it and the mysticism of it. Um, I don't know where I'm going with with this comment, but it's like, yeah, there needs to be a deeper integration of experience, for a practitioner, like lived experience, and then at the same time, those underground practitioners learning about trauma, because essentially that's what they're guiding people through is like it's deep, deep shit, and knowing how to care for somebody in that.
Uh-huh. No, you're absolutely right. And my teacher in the ayahuasca world, he had like a company reach out to him and be like, "Hey, like I know you're an ayahuasquero. We have this like massive opportunity right now with like creating pharmawaska." And it's like, "Are you guys interested in like being part of this? Like there's so much money to be made." And my teacher, he just goes, "You guys have fucking no idea what you're getting into. No idea. Like I'm not coming anywhere near you guys, you know? Like the medicine world's a no joke." And I think you touched on something like really good, where, we live in a day and age where our access to medicines has like never been so great. Like you go back in the tribal settings and it's like only the people who are like serving the medicines like have the access to everything, and now it's like we have access to everything and basically no teachers, so like from your perspective, like what are like the serious like ethical considerations that practitioners and participants should be aware of, you know?
Man, I want to say, like, as a person who's say serving or holding like trip sitting, is like proper screening, to be honest. Like, not everybody can handle even Kambo or psychedelics. I know when I first started, when I was younger, I was like, "This is the medicine for everyone." I was like so evangelical, like everybody needs to do this. And then over the years, it's like I've actually like pulled back in supporting people and slowing them down. Is like is not everybody's ready on a deep psychological level. Um, and even like, yeah, here in Vancouver, it's the access is everywhere. There's dispensaries. You can go get LSD in your smoothie and microdoses of everything and dispensaries. And I was standing in one, I was getting like a coca leaf latte at this one of the dispensaries. And then someone beside me walks up to the counter and is like, "Hey, I'm looking for microdosing. What do you know?" And then there's this like young girl who's like, "Oh, okay, this one. It's like good for you for like your mind and stuff. And yeah, you take like 500 milligrams as a microdose." And I was like, 500 milligrams? That's not a microdose. And just like spewing this like really incorrect information. And the person's like, "Okay." And this like goes off and takes it. Or even like vape pens right now, like 5-MeO or NNDMT vape pens. These things are so powerful. Like, and there's no information. Like you just go over the counter and buy it. And then there's no dosage. People are going home and doing it on their own and having this like crazy trip and freaking out and then needing what's it called, therapy, because they just access some part of themselves that traumatized them. People who are considering doing the information or doing them with no information is like, find somebody to guide you through your first experience, knowledgeable person with experience. um Yeah, I don't know if I answered your question or if I just went on a side tangent.
No, I mean, I think you were right on the money, Like we're coming into a weirder time with all of these things. And even just the way that people think about them too. Like I was like smoking weed when I was younger. And everything that we had in Australia was just like we grew in the bush, you know? And like you'd smoke like 3 king joints in a night and it was like you were chilling. And like I came to Canada and went to a dispensary. This is like 6, 7 years ago, you know? And you have like one puff and you're on the floor and you're just like, holy fuck. And I see it now with like the mushrooms and the psilocybin too, where there's all these beautiful alkaloids that make this medicine, and it's like all the growers now, it's just like more potent, more potent, more potent. That's like all they care about. And they have like big competitions of like who has the most potent genetic. And it's like we lost our minds. That has nothing to do with what this is.
Yeah, I think this like infatuation of intensity, right? Speed, go like bigness is compensation for how numb we are. It's like we need something really strong to feel something. So the small nuanced things like a micro seems like a microdose, right? The nuances, the small somatic shifts we feel are just like inaccessible to how the average person is quite numb or like overstimulated or hyper vigilant or over caffeinated. Most of us are living in fight, flight, or freeze. And we need something big and strong and fast to like break through that so that we can actually feel something.
Yeah. And it makes me think of there's this book, Plant Spirit Medicine. Have you read that?
I don't think so. Who's the author?
It's just there on my lamp. Elliot Cohen. It's my favorite book of all time. It's just the whole thing is just pure spirit codes the whole way through. And if you read it without having like the vision and like the experience to understand these worlds, it makes zero sense. But as soon as you like have the keys, it's like the whole thing's encrypted and it's just so beautiful the whole way through. But he talks about cannabis and he's like, cannabis came from like northern India, China, right? Like the lineages that know how to work with that medicine are there. It's like if you're not connected to those traditional roots of like the people who are their DNA is woven with the plants, then like you're just lost, you know? So it's like the that those indigenous roots, it's like they are the anchor, whenever we work with these things. So like, why are you going to like the store to buy an NNDMT pen? You know, like who's carrying that medicine?
It's like we get into the realm of neo shamanism. And yeah, unfortunately, like through colonization, indigenous tradition and culture is being wiped. And with that, the wisdom of how to work with these plants, it's like encrypted, or really have to find and dig for it. And I think perhaps that's why, we're seeing people, you know, renegade. We see this renegade. And there is something to be said about direct revelation. It's like, do I need a tradition or can this plant teach me how it taught the others? Can I have a direct revelation? And we do see that, right? Like learning like you said, directly from the spirit of Kambo. And I know learned directly from the spirit of mushrooms is like, oh my gosh, you're giving me all this information of space holding, of leading, of how trauma works, of how the psyche works. And then I would don't go take a course or read a book and be like, yeah, that's exactly what the mushrooms told me in my last journey with myself. So yeah, there is so where is the space for direct revelation for people to have their own ability to learn from these plants and themselves versus like lineage, for example, or tradition gatekeeping something. um I think some plants are more, what's the word, I can't find a word, but some plants are more rigid, like iboga and ayahuasca is like, yes, they have a lineage for a reason. But other, more forgiving plants, like a mushroom, like so many people, like, are able to take a mushroom because it just grows in poop. Anybody was able just to take it and take it in the forest and have a great forest day. So maybe perhaps I'm answering my question of like this nuancedness of, what is up for us as a sovereign being to have direct revelation to learn versus when to turn to lineage or tradition.
Yeah, beautifully said. Yeah. I'm just curious from your perspective, like as someone who is serving Cambo, whenever I serve Cambo on someone, like I'm not taking the medicine, right? And like I just get flushed. Like if I'm serving at 10 a.m. from like 9 till 9:50, I'm just sitting on the toilet. I'm just getting cleaned out. Does that happen to you?
No, no. I wake up, I hang out with my puppy, I sip on my matcha.
Yeah, it's like every time. You know, it's like as soon as they like walk in the gate to my place, it's just like time to clean house. You need to be like a squeaky vessel to do this properly, you know? I guess I just got more cleaning to do.
Yeah, yeah. Or who knows? Who knows? It's like it's working with you.
Uh-huh. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, amazing. This was such a good conversation. I'm actually excited to listen to this back. You're so knowledgeable. Um, okay, I think the last thing I'd like to touch on is how your journey is going with like releasing music onto Spotify and becoming a musician and recording. And I'm really curious to see how that's all going.
Oh, thanks for asking. Yeah. Perhaps to give more context on that, like my own personal journey, I've arrived here because of the plants, right? And looking back is like the first 30 some years of my life was about healing. And from my childhood, there was a lot of suppressed energy, a suppression of authentic self that wanted to be opened up. And through, yeah, these plant medicines, ayahuasca, bufo, breathwork, kambo, it's like arriving to this place of finally having access to the authentic self. And when we are, I'm going to use air quotes here, like healed and no longer focusing on healing, we get to turn to playing. We get to turn to enjoying life, and our creativity comes online. And one of the first thing that goes offline when we're holding trauma or stress is our capacity to be curious, to wonder, to play, to be adventurous. Like that inner child shuts down. So recognizing, looking back, was like, wow, it's been a journey of inner child work and liberating this little one. And this little one wants to sing, this little one wants to dance. And the last 10 years of my, well, I want to say that last 10 years of my life is working with this trauma around vocal liberation. There was a lot of fear and contraction around even the idea of singing. Inside, this little one's like, I want to sing. And then I would have panic attacks just like thinking about it. And when I would take mushrooms, the ego would shut off, the fight response would shut off, and this liberated voice came out. And I was like, oh my God, the ancestors are singing through me. Like, oh my God, the angels, like, this is amazing. I love my voice when it's free. And then the medicine would wear off, and I tried to sing, and it was like, what the fuck? What is this? I can't sing. Why am I scared? I'm terrified. I'm clamming up. I'm crying. And so it was 10, no, yeah, like 8 years, 8 fucking years of this journey of unwinding that impulse. And it took a lot of somatic therapy, vocal coach, and tantrums and crying, and lots, and all the meanwhile, like leading medicine and opening up every weekend and then closing, opening up and closing, and the integration. So this is a lovely, story for integration, because the intention was, I want to liberate my voice. So the integration, after a ceremony of feeling the liberation, was going to my vocal practice, right? And leading song circles, and medicine songs would come through, and on my own finally like opening up the voice, and finally arriving last year at this place of like, I'm ready. I still battle with the voice in my head that's like, oh, you didn't hit your high note. Oh, that sucks. You're not like so and so. And blah, blah, like there's still this like little inner critic who's like, you're not good enough. You're never going to be enough. Shut up. um, and there's this part that is liberated, and it finally came to releasing music. And this August released a song called Smiling Hearts Snowflake Prayer, which came through, um I'll condense the story, but in a sweat that I wasn't allowed to participate in. So I was reluctantly waiting outside, and these snowflakes started falling from the sky, and this beautiful there's no wind, so they were all spiraling down at the same time. And I was in Castlegar in the Kootenays, and there the frost is different. Here, when it snows in Vancouver, it's just like slush that has no form. But there, it's like perfect snowflakes. And so perfect geometry spiraling down from the sky. And I'm looking up in wonder and in awe, like, oh my God, this beauty. I see the like interconnectedness of everything. Like, And then the song comes through, and it felt the very felt sense of these snowflakes singing to me through me. And the song doesn't really have any words; it's just Yana Hey Yanas. But the translation is like, okay, the beauty you see in me is the beauty I see in you. The snowflakes being like, hey, your jaw's dropping at me, but I'm dropping my jaw at you. You're beautiful. You're divine. Like, celebrate that. And that's a song that I've been sharing in ceremony, and it's been passed around. So now it's actually in the community. I can hear it in cacao ceremonies and peyote ceremonies. And so it brings me a lot of joy to finally like bring it to the online platform. And it's been such a tremendous gift, because with this, I also launched a GoFundMe project of to my community of like, okay, I'm doing 10 songs. It's going to cost at least $10,000. Help. And it was so beautiful to see my community rush in. Like, so far, we've raised $5,700, so enough for basically half the album. Four songs, three songs are out right now. Working on the fourth one, and it it's all because of the medicine. It's all because of the mushrooms. They're here to heal that inner child so that you can play. And that's like the beautiful lesson of it all, is like the outcome on the other end of these experiences is greater levels of authentic connection to self, embodiment, expression, joy, play, laughter. And that's how we heal as a humanity, is when we're no longer in our survival patterns. We're actually thriving, and we outgrow these medicines. We no longer need them. And I think that's why they've come to the surface, and probably so predominantly right now. It's like the world isn't so it's really fucked up right now. There's a lot of people hurting and in pain who need liberation, and I think that's why there's been this surge of these plants and these medicines, kind of like this like free for all, because it's like, just take us, find your joy, and go create world peace, please. Like, for the sake of the planet, like, please do this work. Um, and yeah, finding myself in this time of play in my life, and I'm using less of these medicines on myself, and actually, that's what brings me joy of holding space for others, because that's what the work is that meet me here in this play, and we could create peace together.
Yeah, so beautiful. Have you been playing music like your whole life, or is it something that really came through the plants?
It came through the plants. I didn't think I was musical. My whole family is this is where it was like this like aha moment, where I learned guitar in grade 7, a couple chords, and that was it. In my 20s, the guitar just sat collecting dust. But my brother, he was the musical one, right? Any instrument, he can just pick it up and be like, like the flute, the saxophone, the piano, the guitar, like anything. Just look at me go. No formal training. My mother also went to music school, so she does piano and the flute. Her sister, my aunt, also piano, flute, jazz, sings. And so I was like, my family is the instrumental one. My grandpa on my dad's side was a drummer in a jazz band. My dad, he kind of like dabbles in like harmonica and guitar, but it was like, they do that. I don't. And so I find myself laughing, because I was like, "Oh my god, it's been here, like, these are my ancestors, these are my roots, like, music is in my roots." And to deny myself that. So, uh, it's fun. My mom comes to my journeys and my sound baths, and I have my bowls and my gong, my harmonium, and she's just like, "I'm living vicariously through you, because I wanted to do this." Like, I love music, but I had children, right? And we were immigrants and lived in, yeah, a bit of poverty, and she had to focus on tending her children. And here she gets to see me like living out her dream, making music. And yeah, it was this the aha moment of like, of course I'm a musician. I still feel like an imposter when I say that, because I still only know just a few chords and some picking patterns. My partner's definitely better, but like, hey, I'm making music. I'm a musician.
hmm It's all in the soul. Yeah, 100%. I think it's one of those things where it's like you're a musician as soon as you say you are, and that's like the end of it. You know, like there isn't like a perfect place or like like you don't play piano unless you're grade 7 or grade 8. You know, That's just not how it works at all.
Yeah, and there's even this, like, people are like, "Oh, I'm not a singer." It's like, well, if you know how to speak, you know how to sing. It's like we're all singers. Like, I'm just singing in this cadence and this melody in this tone right now. And so it's the same. It's like if you can play a chord, you can play music.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I grew up my grandma on my dad's side, she was a pianist, and it kind of trickled down to like the grandkids and me. And like when I was growing up, I kind of fiddled with like a bit of guitar and piano here and there, but like same thing again, just like a few chords, nothing really serious. And once I started drinking ayahuasca, it was just like, you are a musician. You're a musician. You know, it was like every time I'd go and drink ceremony, like drink the medicine, it'd be like, you need to go and buy a guitar. You need to go and buy a didgeridoo. You need to go buy singing bowls. And now I just got like all this stuff in my place. And like I'm moving to Peru next month, and it's like I don't have that much stuff, but I got like two guitars and singing bowls and like this and that and harmonicas and all this shit. I'm like, fuck, what am I gonna do with all of this stuff?
Bring it.
Yeah. Oh, it's like I have no choice, you know? But there's something about the plants and music, they just like they really bring it out of you.
Right, because when I started to study sound, it's like sound is what creates creation. And like the sound, the eternal Om. And even in like the biblical text, like and with I'm gonna butcher it because I'm not a biblical text person, but you know that saying of and then they said, "Let there be light." So said is voice. So sound gave birth to light. And I was doing the sound science course, and sound creates infrared light. You can't see it, but I'm actually creating light with my words. And this light travels, and when it hits matter, it will hit matter, and then that matter will absorb it and transform. And that sound, if I'm singing outside, that light will travel to the stars. And if we create sound with a singing bowl, you know, it goes into the skin. The skin has receptors for sound and it's pulling it in. And we are like on a molecular level, 99.9% water. That sound is going in and informing the water, and that structure is informing our system. And when we're in the medicine, you can feel that, right? Someone's just making a guttural like, and you're like, oh my god, that is moving so much energy. Or this, like someone just strikes like the perfect chord, and your heart just opens up. You're like so affected by profound sound, and then you can hear back the recording of what the sound actually was. I was like, oh, that wasn't actually that profound. Like, didn't even sound that good. But there's something the plants do to open up our perception to like receive it more fully. And that's one of my favorite things is actually medicine and sound. Medicine and singing and medicine and receiving sound. It's a trip. It's in itself. So that's why it's so sound is such an important part of ceremony.
Hmm. And it's everywhere too. There's like there is no tradition where there's no song involved, you know? And I know, like, even with ayahuasca, it actually changes your vocal cords when you drink it. That's like one of the effects it has. And you just sing like an angel. You're like, oh, this is the best.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes like I can feel like an energy, or I have a lot of like guides that I work with, and I can feel them coming in when I invite them in, and I can feel my body changing and my voice changing, and all of a sudden I'm like this abuela and singing Spanish, and then like 3 seconds later, like these bird sounds come out, and then like jaguar, and then I try to do that like without medicine is like, oh, I can't do that. That's there's something going on in those spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The access is gone. Yeah. Ah, amazing.
Yeah, I have learned jaguar though. That's one I can finally recreate. And like, yeah.
Yeah, unreal. Unreal. All right. I think that's all I got. Um, what are you working on? Where can people find you? Just plug away. I'll stick whatever in the descriptions above, below, left, right, wherever they go.
Yeah, I mean, if you're interested in Kambo, then thesomaheart.com. That's where like Kambo and our other medicinal events are. And I say our because I work with my partner, my love, my fiance, Deus. If you're interested in that Candida cleanser, candidacleanser.com. If you're interested in music, Akaiyah Fortune on all streaming platforms. And that's that. And if you wanted to follow me like on Instagram or something, I'm more active there. It's aga.akaiyah.fortune. As I have two names. I'm going through a transition. I was Aga, now moving into Akaiyah, so I'm in this like sloppy, awkward transition phase where I don't even know what to call myself. But yeah, that's where you can find me.
Yep, beautiful. Okay, yeah, definitely worth checking it out. Her music's absolutely divine. So, 1,000%. Like, take a look into that. Yeah, it's unreal. I love it. Okay, I think that's it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was really fun. I know we could like talk for hours, but this was good.
Yeah, no, we can always do another one in the future too. And next time I'm out in Vanway, I'll come see you.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right. That's all. Thank you so much. All my relations.
All right. Bye.
Thanks so much for tuning in. I really hope you enjoyed the show. If you did enjoy the show, don't forget to like and subscribe below. It really helps a growing channel like this out. And click up here, it'll take you to a collection of the best this podcast has to offer.